The rock paintings. Well, some of them are dated back far beyond carbon. You still find sea life, shells and stuff way deep inland.
Welcome Q7 to
Thank you.
Paleoher and Express Now Media Network. We would like to listen from you. Where are you from and what is your community and why are you here in India today?
My name is Craig Q7 Beckett. My real name was misspelled by the apartheid government. It's supposed to be Kriki. I'm named after a plant, Craig Q7. It's a plant, it's a very medicinal plant. So it starts off with that. I'm Naro, and the Naro clan predominantly used to be in South Africa with the Tung, the Jukwasi, the Kum. All these clans are the clans who painted the rock paintings we find laying around, and all these relics you'll find in caves, and the human life that was before colonization or black distant relatives came from the north, the east, the central of Africa. Most of my family, you could honestly say, are from still the areas where they were living and where they were hunted. That's a reality. How many of us in South Africa now? I think there's only like one clan in South Africa now, and most of the clans were pushed up due to colonization into Namibia, Botswana, Angola, and due to fences we are trapped there now. We can't move around, we're now caught in borders. My family is still in Graafrenet, where you will find a remarkable archaeology sites there, Camp de Bow, New Bethesda, the Desolation Valley, Port Elizabeth, ostrich place. If you go to Port Elizabeth, the first thing you notice the ostriches, and they're along the coast. This is why I'm actually also interested in your ostrich eggs, because along the coast of the Eastern Cape, you'd find two species of ostrich. On more to the coastal, you find the smaller one that had to survive amongst trees and shrubs and bushes, while in the desert you find the bigger ones that had to be the tree and the shade themselves. My family still is in the areas, Western Cape, Eastern Cape, but due to the influx of other clans coming in, you find us no more in our homelands, if you have to call it homelands. And when we say homelands, we are nomadic people. We became homelands. We never had a certain place where I can call home. We only later, after colonization was bordered down as fences came up and farms came up. Most of us, we had to move out due to grazing. If you look at the goat in South Africa, you'd find a lot of similarities of the goat in Egypt. So the people you call Khoi or Khoisan, they come from more the north through the west, Morocco area, back down through the coastal area of Congo, coming right down into Angola, into Namibia, from Namibia into South Africa, while the black tribes came down the east. Shaka Zulu, the Zulu people, they are a band of many tribes. So we can't really say which of them it was who first entered, but Shaka Zulu was the one famous, known for bringing his soldiers in. But by this time, the British was already there, the Dutch, the Portuguese was actually the first to come, and we actually were the first people to do battle with the Portuguese. General D'Almeida, we scalped him and his men in what you would call today Cape Town. And that history is still alive. That's why we find Portuguese history in our country. When we moved out there, you'd find all our stuff still laying around. That is evidence of fear. We never leave our things behind. So everything people find today is us leaving things behind to move light and silent. We are known to be very silent. Today, you don't find us in our mannerisms. You find us outside our language. You find us outside our dream state. Dream state meaning our medicine, trance, dancing. You find only few clans doing that now in Namibia, Botswana, Angola. And we do still wear skins, but due to trade, we have to come out of the park. Most of us is found alongside national parks where we sell these things, ostrich bead jewelry, bow and arrows, love arrows, our sticks, all these type of things we find there. So I grew up a lot with my grandfather, and he used to travel the whole country. And that's how I met his friends, because to them it was about telling the story to keep it alive. My grandmother the same. In these areas from the Makwa land, the Kuru, larger Kuru, small Kuru, right up to the coasts, we still find a mixed version of who we are. They still live there, and we still practice all these, what people call ancient things. To us, it's not ancient. It's found in between our Western lifestyles. It's how we keep our rites of passage alive and the story of who we are. If you know Leonhard Schultz, the German zoologist and researcher from Germany, due to him, we don't have a proper name anymore. So he gave us the name Khoi-san. That derived from people, the Khoi people were asked, what do you call these people? And they said, san, meaning derogatively, that these people are people who pick things up, not understanding that we are hunter-gatherer. There's a difference between Khoi people being pastoral people. They have goats and cows, and they have a lot of domestication. They were partially closed, they had tools, they have already met a civilized person. Whereas you look at us, the hunter-gatherer clans, the Bushman clans, they totally non-domestic. We used to see these things, we hunted them, not understanding what they were, and that is where the conflict with hunter-gatherer and pastoral people comes in. We attacked their livestock. And today you still see there's a lot of pastoral mannerisms and community in South Africa, but not much hunter-gatherer and foragers. That's the big difference between them. Yeah.
Oldest evidence of Bushman community in Africa.
The rock paintings.
How old it is?
Well, some of them are dated back far beyond carbon. They really can't give a date on
more than
but more than 50,000 years, 60,000 years, you would find evidence of this. If you understand how water moved and what happened during the period when people started migrating, you'd find traces through the timelines in sand that when we were there was no pastoral. There was no paintings of cows, of camels, of horses or anything like that. You only find later on them seeing the white man coming. There's a very famous painting where you see a painting of wagons coming. That is a baby in the paintings. You could say in the past 100 years, 150 years, that could have been painted. But before then, we have graves found with very old Bushmen in it. We have places where there's stone circles, glyphs standing up, and markings on rocks and footprints stuck in the sand. Mud that was frozen into mud for thousands of years through the Gondwana area, right up to the cradle of humankind. I was born in Johannesburg, and Johannesburg is the cradle. It's found in that vicinity of the cradle of mankind. And as we all know, they found the oldest human remains in the cradle. Again, dated back much more further than our recently studied human beings. So they were practically still in Stone Age. You find the Stone Age remnants and clues of the Stone Age much more in these areas. And what makes it more remarkable, you still find sea life, shells and stuff way deep inland to show you how far the water actually was before it receded into the oceans we know today. There's caves like in Plettenberg Bay. There's this place called Plettenberg Bay, and Plettenberg Bay, they have digs that they actually still busy with finding older and older places of human life in it.
You are one of that population who survived the hardest environmental condition, the Kalahari Desert.
The Kalahari Desert, and not just the Kalahari Desert. If you look at South Africa today, due to farms and due to logging and timber being brought in and them making plantations, we used to be quite everywhere in the area. The harshest situation and circumstances you see us living in today is due to colonization. We used to roam openly throughout the entire Southern Africa and into Africa according to seasons, like your migration of the animals. When it becomes winter north, they come down to where it is much more fertile and, luscious grasses. We, the Bushmen, were the same. When the animals move on, we knew to also move on. And these are the habits we share with nature by understanding. That's why with Bushman people, you will closely find that it's not a hard thing to believe that we could actually understand an animal. We understand the mannerisms of their migration, their water seeking, how they eat food. These things we eat the same. We eat berries. There's certain insects like cicada we eat. Cicada is not there throughout the whole year. So you'd understand if the cicada is missing, if this Camifora bush is not growing well, any climate disturbance that would disturb an animal, especially a vegetable-eating animal, we would understand that and move on. These are the mannerisms we still have today. So you could actually see the migration pattern of us by also looking at Cape Town, up from the Capes into the Karoo, to the Western Cape where it's more sandy desert, to more inland. You can follow the cave paintings. They're all practically in a line. It's not just scattered. It is places of interest to a Bushman, where there's waterfalls, where there's good hunt, where there's good bees, honey, things like that. And when you trace these places, you actually see that they were here for the food, not here for the scenery, which most people chose land due to scenery, due to flat lands. And I mean, look at India, the hills. A cow doesn't fit into this. And when you look at South Africa, you could actually see the domestic livestock they brought in changed over the years due to the terrain they were brought on. With us, we were short people. We were under bushes, shrubs. Our size was determined to our environments, and that's how it shaped us. I saw today Indigenous people of India, and they're also short. It gives me the idea that these people also lived under shrubs, bushes, moved through difficult places. We didn't cut trees. It's another thing. And when you look at the Bushmen, they love to sit under trees. Back then, there was much more of them. When you look at colonization, when they came in, the first thing they did was land clearing. And that's why you won't find many of our, traces of our livelihood. Today in the Western Cape, when you see the farms, it's very hard to say there's not a farm, wine farm or grape farm that didn't pick up tools, they didn't find pieces of Bushman life in the soil when they were digging it up. Sometimes they find human bodies. There's a farm in Durbanville Hills, which I used to visit, and this farm had a room that had a lot of the artifacts they found in the area. Even the workers claimed, the very old workers that was on the farm, claimed that they have found Bushman bodies still intact in natural forests, bush forest that belongs to South Africa, indigenous forests. So those things also indicate land clearance was a big disturbance of figuring out who we are historically and within the timeline. These land clearances were found throughout Southern Africa. As it grew, you'd find that we moved away. To the mountains of Drakensberg, you find stories of them pointing out to move. You find evidence of a disturbance, but you can actually see they weren't from one area.
As a Bushman leader, what are your roles and responsibilities?
Well, let's first explain Bushman leadership. Bushman doesn't really have leaders. We have something that sounds like a leader, but it means provider, champion. And if you look at all the clans, you're looking at family-based clans. So it's every person in charge of his family becomes a leader. We only figured out the colonizing term of chief and leader far later. And if y'all were my family and I was the person providing, I would be looked at as the leader. But you can't find traces of us appointing a person. That's more like monarch and tribal systems. With us, it was the family man. Your father is still alive. What does that make him in your family? The leader. So with us, that's how it is structured. And if you provide well, you are a good leader. And when you look at the word Kaiha, it means the family champion, the person who leads the family. And you could see that has no form of responsibility as a village would have. Then you will appoint someone to lead a greater multitude of people. But we are family bands, and each family band is led by your elder and the elder woman, not just you appointed as one. So it starts off with that. In that, over the years, when you look at the Naro clan, for example, the Naro clan is led by Chief Jacob Dabe. Chief Jacob Dabe is found now in Namibia, and a very beautiful man. You'll meet him. Chief Jacob, the senior, we look at him as our father that leads us. And in that, he also can not appoint, but have his family make that decision. In the South African side, I'm one of that. My family is the Becketts, which were named Beckett. You can hear Beckett, it's an English surname. We were Barkat. And today, when you go to the Eastern Cape, you would hear the people that call themselves Barkat, most of them are Beckett. My grandfather, his brothers, all of them, some of them were taken to Australia for also being that head figure. And unfortunately, they were hung and shot in Australia for being this head figure that didn't turn our band or our clan into an obedient servant. These things are very openly discussed still in our community. And today I find myself as a leader. And as a leader in our community, my leadership is based on, again, like that old champions, where can I get fertile ground to hunt? Unfortunately, my hunt today is economy. My hunt today is respect. My hunt today is envisioning a future where I can still be in my first skin. My first skin, for example, is nature. And we have less of that. So to replace my first skin would mean to replace my culture. And that has happened to us. It is in me and my leadership today to replace our first ecological skin, nature.
What all organizations you are associated with?
I can say independently I stand. As a leader, I created an organization out of 30 years of research. I'm 46 years old. So if I say 30 years, you can imagine the backdrop of that. It is still me bringing in the old and nothing new. IWAX Africa, I created this organization, and I can say independently there is other, what we are called today SAN, Southern African Natives, which should be corrected because Southern Africa has 16 states and some of them are islands. So you can't say the Bushman is swarming around and things like that. So as a Bushman clan, this is an open discussion when it comes to who we are, where we're from, and what we are. As a leader, I cannot say that we have a successful organization set up for us. We have things like a San Council, but I can honestly tell you, when you look at the San Council, they are not San. They're not Southern African native Bushmen. These are mixed clans. The organizations and the cartel of good intentions has created organizations to babysit us. And these organizations, I can honestly say, they are looking for funding for wages, stipends, petrol, and welfare. Well, they use little of that money to educate us and to develop us. But as a Bushman clan, I can honestly say we don't really have Bushman organizations that are successful. IWAX Africa, I built through 2 projects. First was Project Mantis, then Project Badger. Project Mantis was me going immersing myself in what was left of us and using that traffic of myself, knowing networking, knowing the world, knowing the internet, knowing writing, and let that audience follow me in. Project Badger later became, what do I do with that? Because I understood how academically the world works and economically, the political factors. And once I noted that, Project Badger became where I took people now into the bush. As you know, a badger is stubborn. Once he sees something or once he gets angry, you will not dust him off. He will keep on trying to bite you. So that's the type of mentality I had to entrance myself in to take other people into the wild. After Project Mantis and Project Badger, I started creating IWAX Africa, which would be right now 7 years old. This organization is created by me and 3 women. Again, do I have more women in the organization sitting on the board? Because that's how my village works. They command me to go and hunt, economically, politically, socially. And today I have track record of say 36 years of my life and being out there, staying with the clans, Naro clan, Jutkwasi, Kung, all the clans that is left, Haishlum, all these clans I've been into. And my study with them was to see, can we form an organization? Unfortunately, education is a problem there. Academic research is a problem there. When you look at organization, you need to have some form of understanding of economy, commerce. You need to understand the laws and bylaws of your area, your political flag. We were not trained in these things. Our chiefs are managed by government flags, given the title chiefs, and some of them are appointed through governments. And those appointed ones, we can't really say that we know their families in leadership or no, these are people chosen, which has become a problem today in our community because the community would listen to one man while you that is appointed as a chief, we don't listen to. But we listen to that strange old man that sits in the dust the whole day and we admire that man and we don't admire the person sitting there with brand new skins. You can see that man didn't hunt the skin. When you look at our leaders, you can see his wife made the beads, his daughter helped make his outfit. Today, when we recognize somebody with a brand new skin like that, it's something that hurts us because that man has to be buried with all these things. And we know our old people's got their skin since they were kids. They got their beads since they were kids. When he sits with his stick, that stick is old. He's buried with the things he loves, the things that he will need on this journey. That's how they say. And that is something that has affected us in a great, great way because if I must tell you about Chief Jacob Dabe, Chief Martin, Chief Eddie, these are people that is ignored by governments because they're authentic. They're not as mixed as I am. I stand as a mixed clan leader. My mom married another person. And even though he's indigenous to South Africa, I can't say which clans they were all together. But today, we still recognize these old men that is, how can I say, misnamed. They're not recognized.
You traveled across the world, and if today you compare your community with the people around the world, where are we standing, the Bushman standing today?
Very low. Start there. We don't know as much as you. For example, when the British left your country, you forced them to give back everything. Unfortunately, we are triple colonized. We are colonized by white people, we are colonized by the Bantu and Nguni tribes, and a mixed race today. These lands would have been given back to us, but unfortunately, the crown, the queen, all these things that played the same role in your life, gave this over to people knowing that these people would manage the lands and their investments. It was not just about giving the land back to the natives. It was giving it back to people who still serve that colonizing white master, if I may say so. And today we see that trend still alive in our third form of colonization, which is the mix. That mix comes from the Dutch East India Company. The Dutch East India Company brought Indian slaves from Indonesia, from India, from all over the world to come and stay in our countries. Today, these people are proudly South African, but that mix has now finally become the leadership of our country, and we still not found in these forms of leadership. The famous leader, Petrus Valboy, is an example to it. That leader is a very old leader in the Kalahari, and till today on, the leader, Petrus Valboy, can't say he owns the land he stands on. He has an overseer. And if you know an overseer, it's a master. So when it comes to who we are today, we are still colonized. We still can't say that we have the freedom. Out of 11 languages spoken in South Africa, none of that language is our languages. I could say now to somebody from South Africa that is so-called Khoisan, hey too. He wouldn't understand what I said. I can ask him, how come go? Let's work. He wouldn't understand. Go, come sit here. He wouldn't understand that. That shows you the difference of what is leadership in our country currently teaching the world. We are not Khoisan. We are the Bushman clans. And I know people will look at it and say, but isn't it the rocket of the Khoisan Bushman? Well, if you look at where we live, look at my environment. I would prefer you calling me that if you can't say Naro or Tung or Jukwasi. It's not an easy word to say. Again, going back to the German man, Leonhard Schulz. He also couldn't pronounce these words. That's why he had to ask advice. And his advice is an academic mistake that has echoed through our entire life, changing even the laws that governs us. These things has to be topics we speak about today. I can speak and articulate English only because of my colonizing environment I was in. But these people that still speaks our language, they hid from that. And that's how they still have pieces of that alive. Most of us became research subjects. And that's also how they kept it alive. But not intact. They kept it alive by the interest of study. Darwinism. We were still regarded as animal. Till very recently in the modern times. You could find us on human hunts. If you can Google right now, Bushman hunts or hunting contracts with Bushman in it. Sadly, you're going to find pieces of paper signed by white people, typed out in English or Afrikaans or German, stating they hunted Bushmen. And these hunts were very famous. Not to even the Europeans, a lot of them deny it, but their written evidence is found in our countries, both Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. So these type of conversations has never been really openly spoken about, how we become. For example, if you look at a pastoral person, how did he get his grazing lands? They had to disturb somebody's way of life. That somebody is the Bushman clans. And that's where we are found scattered today in South Africa, not understanding even our own languages. I would love to dream in my language. Unfortunately, I'm conditioned to dream in English and in Afrikaans, but I can speak my language, but it doesn't make sense to me in my dreams. I still dream in a colonizing language, and that is the most painful part of who we are. We want to dream in our own languages. We want to enter our own sacred sites. That sacred site is somebody's farm today. It's a government park today. It's a national park today, where they would look after vegetation and biodiversity instead of me, who lived with biodiversity. These are the important factors. And if you understand it's being called Bushman, it puts me with the entire animals. I'm excluded from that today.
So as a leader, what you can do for your community?
The first thing as a leader to do for my community is seek distant relatives. Seeking distant relatives is to echo into the past, not into the future. And echo means it comes from somewhere distant. It is echoing. And as you know, the echo starts off with you hearing yourself and then somebody hearing you and you not understanding what they hear. It's a total different. The echo I've received now from the past has distorted a lot. We need to get that back. This is gotten back to us by understanding mannerisms, silent language, looking at other people. You've taken me to places, Rajani has taken me to places where I've seen similarities. Where people sit, Indigenous sit by the fire. We sit the same way with our legs in front of us. We make a fire. The way the woman wear their sari is the same direction a skin would go over a woman. The way you ask for something with your hands, the way you speak and point out and never with your finger, with your whole hand. These are important things to understand. Then I look at your hunting equipment. They're the same as the Bushman. You're musical. You wear bells today. I wear shakers. But it's the same thing. These things had to change as migration went on further. But we still bear the same mannerisms. We have the same cheekbones. And these things you cannot pass. If you look at our clans today, we feel we are alone. If you look at the Bushman clans, they feel that they're as good as really, truly an animal on the extinction list. We are looked at through microscopes. The desert and the bush is not a need to be looked at like that. You look past me then. A microscope is to look at things in detail. So if my life or the Bushman clan's life is looked at like that, you're going to look at biodiversity and you pass the human being. So to bring that back onto the table, by finding distant relatives, finding the commonness amongst us, the ancient commonness, the trauma of our soil. What happened that we should move? What happened to my soil? Not my political being, not my physicalness, but what happened to the ground I stand on that would make me move? Fortunately, I cannot say it's colonization. We're looking at climate. We're looking at events on Earth that is catastrophic, but in a natural way. These events has moved my distant relatives further from me. And today we have technology that brings us closer. So as a leader, the most important thing I have for my community that I can contribute with my life today is showing the similarities of who we are, whether you're in North America, South America, India, Mongolia, Australia, we bear a lot of the same similarities. But due to colonization and the pioneering of academia, these competitions between men of brilliance has divided us again. So we now in that world where we can rather not argue who I am and by giving myself a name, but by looking for a native person of the world that started with a humble beginning like mine. And that is found in similarities, that is found in mannerisms, that is found in beliefs. I dance around a fire, clapping hands. I witnessed the same in these clans. They dance around the fire, clapping hands. There's always a fire near them. The way they make fire is a very large form of respect, how they make their fire. The way they look at nature, very high respect. These are the mannerisms that brings us into what we can call today a village.
So, which are the animals? Those are very close to the Bushman community.
Oh, we have all of them. We have lions, we have giraffe, elephant, the big five, the entire catalog of animals. But then you need to look at them closely. For example, as a Naro person, things like the eland, gemsbok, these are totems. These totems I recognize as, some people might say a god, we might say a guide, a spiritual guide. And these guides are found on the rock paintings. So we still have that relationship where even today, like my ancestors painted the giraffe and looked at it as something holy, rain, the clouds, a mantis. These things are still very much alive in our culture today, found in dance, song, and it revolves around an animal or an insect. Ostrich is a god. Ostrich is said to have been in charge of fire or controlled fire. And we lost the true meaning of ostrich and fire. But today we can still see the similarities by, if I say to my elder, a shaman called Kamashe, he's Jutkwasi. I'll tell Kamashe, Kamashe, let's go hunt. There's an ostrich. I'm going to kill that ostrich. He'll tell me, no, that's my totem. You know you may not hunt my totem. You'll eat it. I can't eat with you. I'm going to starve if you kill that animal. Then he'll see a gemsbok. I'm going to hunt that. And I'm like, no, that's my totem. You're going to eat alone. I won't be able to eat with you. So also that, look, the relationship we have with animals, where the clans and within the clan, the totems actually protect the animals and the insects and water. These totems are very important to note. Again, due to my upbringing within colonization, I can articulate this. And the bush is very hard for a normal person to understand. Why did this man just walk past a giraffe and he didn't kill it? I can't allow him to do that. That's my main god. Today I can call it a god. I can replace that word. Now, if you look at the normal world, they would call us crazy. That's an animal. Now, these are the things with nature that makes us more safer to be with nature than your westernized person.
This is a small piece of ostrich eggshell what we found from central India, which was dated using AMS to around 56,000 years old. Can you just observe the ostrich eggshell piece and share your insights?
Very important to us. It's a water flask. These water flasks to us was very important. We traveled long distances, and traveling long distances, we never had packets, plastic, leather really can't keep it. water in that long, it will seep, it will come out. You'll see us today with plastic bottles and we put fabric around it and we tie it up and we put more fabric and we tie, but it becomes round. And that is now to keep that egg cool. Back in the day, due to climate, we put the eggs into the ground. So something this hard would survive that under the underground, and due to the ceramic or calcium deposits on it, it stays cooler and safer and harder under the ground. Now you know, if you put anything in a container, it's safer if the container doesn't leak. Ostrich eggs don't leak. So when you look at our culture and our way of life, you'll always find an ostrich egg in our life, representing water, the respect of water, looking at water as godlike. And to keep something that sacred, you would want to keep it safe into something like a bag or a bottle. This would have been our bottle. And still today on, it also is used to adorn us. We make jewelry out of it. And this jewelry is very important. It shows you who I am. If you look at today's Indian people, they wear silver, they wear gold, but it's a form of identity to them, very important identity. It could be traced back to an old man sitting and, melting silver, and you could trace that story back hundreds of years. Through us, today when you find in archaeology digs, you find in caves, you find first shell from ostrich and sea life shell, which is used in adornments. Still, my identity of an ancient time. And to trace us and link us to that, you'd find today we wear ostrich. The little chopstick thing I showed you has ostrich around, again in a circle. These things are very important. We are a clan that really still believes in the ways of the old. All our Bushman clans, whether they're in Angola, Botswana, Namibia, South Africa, and to wear this as an adornment gives me some form of self-respect, gives me some form of identity. I can be told that I'm not Bantu, I'm not Nguni, I'm not white, I'm not Nama. Bushman used that. So it is a very important thing in our lives, that, and one of the indicators that we are the prehistoric man's children.
Wonderful.
Well, I don't know much about the names, but I can tell you I've been from Delhi to Udaipur to now in Gujarat. From Gujarat,
Chhattisgarh.
the south of India, from the south of India back up to Hazaribagh. Did I pronounce that right? Jharkhand, yes. Where I'll be in a museum with very, very respectable wisdom keeper of India, Bulu Imam and his son Gustav, as well as the entire family. These journeys are very important. These journeys are not also about similarities. I'm looking at a way to take and partner with a distant relative to take some form of information into the future. We don't have forms of art that I can say. We call it today art. To us, that's spiritual. It's not art. Today we can say the dancing, they call it dancing. But to us, no, that is a way of worship or a way of identifying how I feel or how I should feel, or identifying a hunt or how a woman makes me feel. It's all natural things, but so we can't really say it's Bushman art. The rock paintings, today we call it art. Again, it's not a form of art which is associated to that word art. What we're looking at on this journey is me partnering with distant relatives, people who is carried their information and carried who they are through many forms of identity carrying, the mode of carrying who you are into the future. And I feel that by partnering with indigenous communities like in India, which comes to more or less the same timeline that we were moving around, this type of people could partner. For example, you have a second skin or a first skin, you call it a sari or a cloth. For me to put my art on that cloth carries it respectably with honor into the future. This is what you call Adavasi. It's an indigenous person. I'm an indigenous person. So by linking with us indigenous people, our youth has a form of understanding how to carry this. We would learn how you do Today, you introduced me to somebody who makes paper out of banana. That paper could carry a Bushman story, meaning we piggyback each other into the future. So what I'm looking at is engagements, youth engagements, elder engagements. Youth is in where I come from, don't have wisdom keepers anymore. Our elders are dying, or we don't understand the languages they speak. Today we have a more urban way of thinking. If archaeology and academia brought as much as they could from the past till now, what mode of transport do we have now to carry independently? Remember, that was colonizers. They wrote their own story, their own idea. You can't say that was a Bushman idea. You can't say that was a Adivasi idea. They were forced and taught a new system of carrying something. Today, respectfully, we could ask Adivasi to piggyback Indigenous Bushman Adivasi. And that is how we transport this into the future. If you look at archaeology and cave paintings, we don't find our own. If you come to my country as a tourist, the first thing you're going to find is a white person or a black person standing there and saying, these are Bushman caves. This elephant means Komtima. No, it doesn't make sense. I hear that from that man. So by understanding how your rock paintings, I mean, you are people, a group of people who has rock paintings, who has rock carvings dated exactly the same date as mine. I think that is the person I would like to even allow, that Indian person, to read my caves than a non-Adivasi person. And I see the same respect with you. We have libraries, we have museums, special collections, but that was not stored away by our people. There's a certain way to respect an ostrich egg. I'm not going to put it on the shelf. I'm going to have a decoration on the floor and sand on the floor and a box to show you how to put it in there. And that tells you historically the story of me in the now. Today we find it on shelves and in glass boxes. You took me to a museum where I could touch an Adivasi instrument of years ago. We have borders around these things where we can't touch it. We're going to break it. No, that brings respect to me. I can't break it. So we would like to learn how somebody like the Adivasi developed their technique of having their own museum by your own. For you, by your own. Not for me by a white person. For me by a black person. We have white people mixing soil. Could you imagine that person is going to teach my daughter or my son how to mix soil to do a painting? It doesn't fit. That is still a form of colonization. You're controlling my intellectual property. And today when we look at rights, look at not just human rights, intellectual property rights, we understand that that's the goal of the future. So we would like to be in charge of our own form of data saving or data capturing of our past. We don't have that. So learning the techniques from Bulu Imam, how he sits with the woman, the relationship he creates with the woman, how they touch the soil, mix it, use combs. That is more what I want to learn and who I want to learn from than me going to a university and listening by Mr. de Klerk or Mr. whatever white surname that this is how you do the technique. You mix this color, you put black first, and no, it doesn't resonate with my being, with my belief system. It doesn't resonate with my humble beginnings, my origin, who I am, how I dream. I'm listening to somebody still asking me to obey him, that I should do that. This is not possible today. We should be learning from other indigenous and not non-indigenous. It is a must. And that gives us, all indigenous people in the world, some type of hold on our own property. We might not be able to claim our lands back, but what is ours in dream state, what is ours in spiritual state, and what is ours in the now so-called art state, that belongs to us. So I should be able to make decisions for that. And I find that decision making much more acceptable by coming to the Adivasi, seeing how they do it, so that I can go back home and teach my youth. Look at the photos. Look at this. These people saved their own history. We should be doing things like that. And by traveling through India, I'm meeting a diverse group of Adivasi. I'm not meeting 2 or 3. We're only about 5 or 6 left in our groups. But here I'm meeting 19 in a group, 20 in a group, 30 in a group, all respectably in their own languages, their own spiritual, but living together even though they're speaking a language that combines them. We're happy to speak English and Afrikaans today, but we are not happy to share our intellectual property with these other people because we need to be looked at individually. A narrow person has a narrow feeling, a narrow personality, a narrow spiritual, a narrow dream. The Jukwasi can't come and dream like me. I need to see his library. But again, the commonness comes in how we protect this intellectual property, how we gather it, and who gathers it, and who delivers it back to me. It should be all Indigenous, learning from Indigenous. Again, coming to similarities. That similarity could be a way of capturing my heart and my trust. I don't feel the trauma of my soil when I talk to you. I don't feel the trauma of my eyes. I don't feel the trauma of my voice when I talk to you. I'm much more calm, which means the youth of tomorrow could understand each other. And when you look at South Africa today, it's a sad fact we have xenophobia. That's one of my main reasons. We have xenophobia, we have Afrophobia, we have racism. And the Bushman doesn't see another person as white or black. We see them as a distant relative. That is very important today. We are seeing a mixed race in South Africa pointing a finger at people, calling them, you are not from here. How do they know that person is not from there when there's prehistoric history that says we were once together? You found ostrich eggs in India. It makes people think, especially a Bushman. And I'm gonna go home and tell them, those people found ostrich eggs up there. They're gonna say, Q, is there Bushman there then? Did the Dutch East India Company take them there? No, this was way before the Dutch East India Company even went there, old man. He's gonna be shocked. He's gonna be like, then who didn't tell us this? Again, the walls and the perimeters and the borders of colonization. So it is very important while I travel to document photo, video, see how they still talk their language, even though they're talking other language, they still speak their language, they're still doing their storytelling. We need to learn to do that before it's too late. People fear the butterfly effect. If the butterfly disappears or the bee disappears, the world's gonna die. What will happen when all the indigenous people, the first people, disappear? Wouldn't that also have a great effect on life? We are part of the main forms of biodiversity. Those animals and trees and plants coexisted with us in peace. Today we call it climate change. And understanding climate only reacted due to colonization. All these new modern things we have. So by understanding that even climate is erasing something important, the more you dig in your archaeology, the less you are finding today. Not because it's breaking, no, climate is breaking. It's something natural, there's an occurrence happening on Earth. We're having volcanoes erupting, the oceans are coming back. They're covering the footprints and fingerprints of a time we still don't understand. So when you look at disaster management, do we have disaster management for relics? We don't. Archaeology is the study of back then, not the study of let's preserve this. Academic books can't preserve what's left in the soil. It is your theory, your vision, what you're trying to come close to the truth, as close as possible. But if that truth, that physical truth, the rock paintings, they're getting salt on it. That salt comes from the ocean. They're getting deposits of carbon on it, from fires, from felt fires, from cars driving up and down. 4x4s never used to be there. That painting was safe. But because of this carbon dioxide, you could actually dust off a rock painting. We'll see many events in the book where you see pieces falling off. The earth is tremoring. That rock is going to fall. What do we have to protect that for our next generation? How do we create a form of protection for this? Unfortunately, climate change has proven to us we're too late. So by me traveling also, it's also to ask a very important question to the Adivasi. What arrangements have you made to protect your ancient drawings, your rock carvings from the effects of climate? Or are you only worried about the pollution? I'm worried about the effects on climate, on what we're still trying to figure out. Why, how come, and where did we go? Those traces first was at risk because of colonization. Now we can't blame a colonizer anymore, and we can't blame the rain, climate change. We can't. We need to make plan to have a version of that in the future, whether it is me going into the mountains and GISing all the locations, whether it's me going and identifying a grave and putting a pole up in Drakensberg so that we can save that, not only blocking land grabs and saving a park, but stating that this grave has never been dug open and research what's in that man's stomach. That could be the traces of what and why happened. We're looking at dinosaurs found. They studied the dinosaur, they know what it ate. They know what killed it. A comet came, the dinosaur gases killed the dinosaur. Mass flames burned the dinosaur. Not just dinosaur ate dinosaur. But how did they know that? What research did they do to understand that reptile? So I have to look at our cultures, our being, our traces of the past exactly the same way. How do I take that into a future where it might not exist? We have farms now on archaeology sites. And we have archaeology fading away. People don't want to do that anymore. You're now part of a study that's also pointed out as you did wrong. So as a person that's from an indigenous background, you know the importance of not being pointed at, saying, what happened there? I need to also question you and ask you, as an archaeologist, what are the measures you've taken to carry this into the future other than technology? That is oral. It's our only hope. But without seeing the physical thing, there's no sound. The dream fades away. The memory fades away. While there's still something like you finding an ostrich egg here, it takes my story into a new future. And it doesn't end in South Africa if a clan goes on an extinction level. These are the important parts. If the ocean comes back, already there's caves under the ocean where Bushman things are. So we could only imagine if the ocean recedes right back up, along that coast is the only last pieces of who we are. Climate change is about to become a very nasty thing in my life. And so is it in your life. How do we save that? What measures have we taken? I'm traveling India also to ask that question, which is very important. It's not saying we're going to cut out the whole rock. We can't. I've seen what the colonizers did. They cut out the piece of rock, it cracks in 4 pieces. There's pieces missing there now. I can't read it anymore. I don't understand it anymore due to archaeology. But today, we need to ask archaeologists, would you please include an indigenous person next to you? It might not exist. He might not be an archaeologist, but could he still see that in that tech? Many of the digs, we're not allowed into it. We will be told, no, you're not qualified to be here. You find gates on the cave. You find fences around the site. You are found this is a restricted area. You may not enter here. That harms my vision. That harms my dream. That harms my identity. That harms who I am. So by visiting people like you, visiting Bulu Imam, the center we were just at, that gives me the ability to also ask an important question, not just extract from you. My offering is warning, like we always did before something great happens. Us indigenous people were known for that. When one clan warns, all clans move. That's how we are. So today I'm coming as a Bushman to India and asking if you are one of the oldest sites like me that is facing pollution, that is facing climate change, could we together figure out how we can reverse climate change or accommodate the changes climate change is bringing to what is left of who we were? We know today that the ocean might be coming in and we will have all that under the water. Atlantis is a very, very, very special example. Today, we can't dive down into the ocean and look for Atlantis. That place moves constantly. Is there any traces of Atlantis? We just know that the Indus Valley people spoke about Atlantis. We really don't know Atlantis. And we can't find it under the water. Here the water is coming back. Africa is cracking again. Volcanoes after 12,000 years is erupting. On the eastern side, bringing a new form of old carbon over to India. What's the threat of that? You showed me river systems, how the salt is entering river systems, how soil is entering river systems. That is from the rock where the painting is coming from. It's not flying in. It's that rock breaking into fine pieces over the generations, removing the fingerprints of my true identity or my distant relative linking to me directly. These things are important. So also in our studies and as filmmakers, are we aware of this? Because there might be no power in the future. Solar is already said it is destructive to mankind. That's why we don't have a population of solar cars, because we can't get rid of those batteries. We can't get rid of all these things that we are building. So I can't rely on technology, but I can rely on your memory. I can rely on your attempts to tell the story of something fading. If you look at the rock paintings, they tell the story of something fading, and they carry it on, hoping we understand that, to also carry our version of understanding into the darkness. These are the important parts of a journey like this. I am not here to pioneer. I am not here to be the best person on social media. I am here to scare my people into a situation that we need. I'm doing a form of bullying, if you may say so, by asking even you a question like that. What have we learned about a past vanished? We haven't learned much because we haven't recorded it indigenously. What I saw today and last night in that village was them taking even out of the ground things of old, repainting them, giving it life again. I thought they were making the pots, and you said, no, Q, they're painting it again with soil. I need to learn to do that, and we all need to learn to do that. The Adivasi in the north might know something that the Adivasi in the south don't know on how to protect this information. It's just not binaries. It's just not photography. It is our beginning. We want to be remembered from times into times unknown. We are losing out on that. There is no way of recording, but by partnering with the idea, we might be on an endangered species of memory. I think that is the most dangerous, being an endangered species of memory. We are not remembering. Our civilization is mixing much more. Our civilization is no more the pure bloodlines. There was never something like that. We are given the idea of, I need to survive. No, you need to remember, not survive. How do I still remember into the future? Who should remember into the future? What is the understanding, the knowledge of remembering into the future? No computer chip can be plugged in my brain to do that. The CMOS of this camera can't be plugged in my head. The only thing that can be plugged in my head is me seeing and touching and feeling the emotion, becoming happy, becoming sad, understanding that I'm not the only one who touched it. I'm happy, very happy. This was maybe 20,000, 60,000, 100,000 years ago. So me touching that memory gives me an emotion, gives me the responsibility to feel, gives me the responsibility to be scared of something natural, not something man-made. I want to be traumatized by fear of forgetting, not the fear of you making me forget. That is why I'm here. How do we bring these people together to save something that we might need the evidence in the future? I look at archaeology for different reasons. I'm an environmentalist. I believe the remains found around the world is forms of understanding cataclysmic events that happened. We are about to experience another one. I would like to know, how did we recognize that event? What did we do when that event occurred? We used to maybe see volcanoes popping all around. It's drawn on rocks. Was that a form of, we need to save this information, we might die tomorrow? Yes. What is our version today? Don't tell me a camera. Don't tell me a library. Don't tell me broadcasting. Don't tell me any form of, I'm gonna write this down. We are oral people. That is the only disaster management we have for cultural effects and culture disappearing. Even in private collections and museums, you have mice, you have theft. I'm buying things that belongs in a museum on the streets of Cape Town. Does that tell me people are stealing it out of the museum and selling it? Yes. I just bought a bow and arrow that is almost 300 years old. You can't tell me that man's family saved it for 300 years. I bought it due to theft. So these are the things that we need to be worried about. How do we take what we have now, in the now, that came from the past, into a further future? Because our ancestors did that. I would like to be in that conversation. I would like to be around those people. To touch things, smell things, drink. I wait. It can disappear. It can break right now and the beads roll. But when I close my eyes, I still see it. How do I preserve that? I can only preserve that by understanding how you think of yours, how you feel about yours, how you dream about yours, so that we can give that as a gift to the youth. The youth might never have the physical thing in their life. I am a Bushman. And as a Bushman, I can show you the museums of South Africa. I can't touch those things. I'll go to jail or I'll get kicked out of a museum. If I try and look at the book, I can't make sense of that photo. I can't touch it. I want to touch it. I touched people yesterday. They made me touch bow and arrows. I'll never forget that. I'm one of the people in the future that can tell the story of that bow and arrow. I held it in my hand. I know what it feels like. I poked, you saw, I cut myself with it. I needed to show my people, there's the 2 marks. It was sharp. It was pointy. The photo doesn't tell me that. Nor is the video going to tell me that. You all are custodians of history as filmmakers. But you do know that's limited. But when I see you and you sit down and I'm 100 years old young man, you can tell me the story of me sitting here, isn't it? Before you get old. And aren't you going to go tell your daughters and your sons that you met me? My daughters and sons will meet your daughters and sons and they will carry on our work. We should not rely on technology. It's still a form of colonization. It's still obey. It's still, you have a limit. We don't have a limit. We don't. That is why I'm here. To remind us never to forget, to remind ourselves who we are. And that is orally. That is not found on something hardcore that you can touch, man.
So when we are talking about sustainable development goals, what are the key insights we can take from the journey of Bushman community surviving in the hardest environment throughout these years?
Family. And all the sustainable developments we see today in the world, where's family? Show me which one says family. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Which number of sustainable developments has family? None of them. None of them. If you don't take care of your daughter and your family, you didn't take care of your future and who you are. We are not taught to take care of our families. We are taught to take care of things. Things that has an expiring date. We are taught to take care of the fashionable things of colonization. They're scared of losing that. We as Adivasi, we're scared of losing family. Are we taught to use family? No, we are taught that the woman must take contraceptives. Because of this overpopulation of them, we are taught you need to clean up the pollution. India is dirty. No, that is the colonizers' dirt. It doesn't belong to Indian people. They were introduced to that dirt. Whereas the SDG in the United Nations charters that states family should be number 1. It's not there. Families are not on the SDGs. What we have been taught is the SDGs. Look at every one of the Sustainable Development Goals. Isn't that things attached to man? It's not man. We are taught more to look after a tree than the family. We, the Bushmen, believe we sit under a great tree. The roots is our ancestors. The branches is where the ancestors went to. And our fingers, the leaves, is who we are. Giving fruits dropping back down to the ground where the roots are. Currently we are taught, preserve the tree, go replant the tree. No, you need to preserve the fruits falling down to regrow. Life will always find a way. We are scared of the wrong ending and the wrong beginning. We should be looking after our families. The Bushman has taught even me from the past that family is important. For example, when I shoot something, my bow and arrow is made. The tip of my arrow is made by somebody else in our group. My sinew string was stripped off from the animal's bone by somebody. The stick was bent over the fire and straightened over the fire by somebody. The fire was made by somebody. My bag, the roots bark was cleaned by somebody to make that bag. All these things. So when I shoot that animal, I got it. I'm carrying it home. That's not mine. The person who made the tip's gonna get their piece. The person who done the singe is gonna get their piece. The person who made the fire is gonna get his piece. Each and every part of the family shares the hunt, even though I went alone. No, I didn't go alone. I went with the energy of a village into the bush, not selfishly alone. I didn't go hunt for me. I hunt for the sustaining factors of a group of people. Now, that example tells you there's something wrong today, that we don't see family. Man next door earns money. He gives his wife only 100 rand. He's got 2,000 rand in his pocket to go have fun. No, that's not the reason for you go hunting. All that belongs to everybody around you. Today we have that colonial mentality that it is mine. What happened to it is ours? What happened to we? We don't even say we that often. We say him, her. No, they're changing the way you feel about your family. That is important. Who are we to our families? How does your family grow? You bring your family into my family and we become a bigger family. We share things. We go through pains together. One person cries in your family, you all feel sad, isn't it? You all start feeling. Not only that person. Did we forget to share that year? When you cry, didn't everyone come in the house and wipe your tears? No, don't cry. Come, I try and hold him. No, shh. No, please don't cry. Now we look at you crying and we say, stop crying, be a man. What happened? The greatest sustainable development goal is family. We've lost it. You're looking at us looking at the weaver bird. There the weaver bird goes up. He comes on. What you looking at? No, I'm looking at how to treat my wife. The female weaver bird sees the male weaver bird go up, makes the nest, brings his grass. The female looks at the grass. Not good enough. She throws it down. He goes and looks for another one. He comes back. Is this good enough? Yes, let's put it in. When it's time to sit on the eggs, Putti, it's your turn to sit on the eggs. I'm going to go have fun with my people. What happened to that? Today you tell your wife, no, we're going to get the babysitter. What happened to family values? What happened? Or you're only going to learn that in religion. No, it's supposed to be the first thing you are taught to from the word go. So, looking at sustainability, nature teaches us to be better persons, and family teaches us how to take that quality into the future of my DNA. The thing that helps me remember how to be human. The first act of human, if you look at any form of life human, when you look at graves of people, you find them dying together. You find volcanic ash, but you find these two people frozen in that and the babies in there. You find bombs falling on a country. You find that family dying together. Today we're dying separately, losing the value of why we should be together. So as a sustainable development thing in this world, we indigenous people, Adivasi of every kind globally, needs to teach the world and reintroduce them to family. I don't see Indian people around me. These are distant relatives. It starts with that. Saying relative, not Indian, American, African. In Africa, we have 50 some odd states. None of them look at each other. How's that family? How is that family? Because you don't want to be called second. Unfortunately, we Bushmen are still alive, we first. You Indians are still alive, you're first. We call ourselves First Nations all around the world, but you can't allow somebody else to walk in and say, no, I'm the second one, it's my turn to be first today. That's not a family quality. That is not. So we do need to go back to the first sustainable development goal, which is family.
What kind of similarities you observe across globe in spirituality?
If you look at us as the Bushman clans, you're looking at the elephant first, for example. In your culture, it's Ganesh. What else you'll call an elephant? Many other things, but as godlike. We also have elephant as godlike. If you look at all around the world, you look at people looking at animals to transfer the knowledge of respect, spirituality, how to fear something natural, a being. Here we have animals. Today in life, we are taught things like books, Bibles, things like that. They're taking us far away from real spirituality. If you see today, we are going through climate change. The first thing you're going to ask is why? We have forgotten spirituality. Climate could have been controlled by your belief system, because my belief system protects nature. Your belief system protects nature. The Amazonian Indians' belief system protects nature. The Inuit, the Alaskan, the Eskimo's belief system protects nature. When are we going to go back to that as Indigenous people? Because we are free now. We have the choices to say, you know what, that's not my thing, it didn't work for me and it didn't work for nature. This is the fundamental truths about us hurting Earth. We are giving birth to people who does coal mining, cobalt mining, hunting, shooting an animal with a rifle. We used to only hunt what we can eat. Now we have cows and things and packets, and we're growing vegetables and genetically modified vegetables because we have to make a lot of vegetables. So how is that vegetable spiritual? In India, you have more suicides because of cotton sold by a company called Monsanto than any form of threat. Even to a colonizer, the British and the Dutch didn't kill that much people than an Indian person making a loan for cottonseed. We've lost the spirituality of that. Is that cotton from India? Is anything genetic from India? No. So we are making non-spiritual food. We have lost our spirituality by consuming anti-spirituality, anti-medicine. And what has it done? That poor family is giving birth to another son to die in India. And he's planning his death because he needs to make that loan at Monsanto. Bayer Newton has to come and give him seedless seed that can only be planted once. You come from a people who just grab seeds and threw it. Tomorrow you go harvest it. Today that poor man has no way in India to sustain his family, his first SDG, because he went to go plant a seed that can't make seed. If you are a human being and your sperm bank is touched inside your body, can you make another child to save the future? That is unspiritual. We are consuming anti-spiritual food. And the worst part of that anti-spiritual food is controlled by the World Bank, IMF, companies like Monsanto, DuPont, Bayer Newton, and they are increasingly growing. And as their interests grow, their profits, people are going down. We need to look at people over profits, not profits over people. We need back our spiritual food. We need back our spiritual land, our soil. This is the trauma of our soil. I might not see a healthy Indian population, not because of pollution, because of what they're eating today. We have foods with labels. None of the labeling on our food says GMO. It just says corn, maize. But where's the word genetically modified so I can avoid it? No, that's not spiritual food. Could I have the more organic one? And why must I call it organic? Because organic is also not spiritual. It is a controlled human idea created to make something last. I want open pollinated seeds. I want heirloom seeds. This is a risk today. The seed that your great-grandfathers and fathers used is almost gone. Now, could you tell me how much of your spirituality is now gone? What have we become? What have we become? We are what we eat. What have we become? This is a very important spiritual question. If we are spiritual beings, every Indian boy that hangs himself or poisons himself, it is our fault. Me as a Bushman, you as an Indian. Adavasi will be wiped out in such a short time because of food. We can't pay these loans. We can't plant these things. Pesticide is, I can see their feet and their nails. This morning, last night, didn't we do a treatment on a little boy with worms inside of him? Was that nice to see that I had to help a little boy who doesn't know what is going on because of tramping in dirty water and eating food? It is not nice. We are dying, not by gun anymore, not by whoop anymore. We are dying by the food we eat. We are eating ourselves dead. We have to have the right to ask for our spiritual food back. Save our seeds. Today it is the greatest weapon against us, is food. It no more grows naturally. We have lab food. We have pesticides put into seeds. I have to have a right to say no. If I don't have a right to say no, then you are still a colonizer. Then you are still harming me. Then you are still controlling my clan. Then you are still giving me policies that doesn't fit who I am. Where is my policymakers, my gurus, my priests, my shaman? Why aren't they part of your policy? Because they would have told you, stop right there. I need younger shaman to grow wealthy. I can't give that shaman that. We have to question food and its spiritual basis. We would like our daughters and our sons to eat themselves alive. Not live to eat or eat to live. No. Educate yourself by educating people about your soil and seeds. We have to minimize companies and corporate companies touching food. Children today think the farm is that label on the box. Some children has never seen a cow before. They see it on a box and they believe that that is a farm. They're drinking milk. No, where did you get the milk? It comes from the cow. What's that child going to do to you when he finds out you lied to him? What's that child going to do when he finds out that food gave me the leukemia I have? That food gave me the autism I have? What's that child going to do? That child's going to blame us leaders, us wisdom keepers. So as a wisdom keeper in India, it is also important to ask, do you understand, boy or girl? There's spiritual food and then there's political food. We need to tell these children the truth. And we need to force organizations that says they are there for us to talk in all languages, even Adavasi languages, not just Hindu, Tamil, English, Afrikaans. No, in all languages it must say GMO so that I can understand that is not spiritual. That is very important.
Thank you very much, Q7, for this wonderful interaction. And we wish you a very great success in your journey to find your distant relatives in India and across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.